I always believed in discipline and routine. My life revolved around order, work, workouts, and weekends spent catching up on rest. My marriage to Julia was part of that rhythm, steady, predictable, and safe. We met in college, grew up together, and built a life based on mutual respect. I never thought anything was missing, until that day at the gym. It started like any other Tuesday morning. I had my usual routine at the local gym, 30 minutes on the treadmill, an hour with the weights, and another 30 minutes of stretching and cool down. The air was filled with the smell of rubber mats, the faint metallic tang of sweat, and the rhythmic hum of machines. The regulars were there too, familiar faces focused on their goals. And then he walked in. I'd seen him a few times before, usually in the afternoons when I was finishing up. He was the kind of man who turned heads without even trying. Tall, broad-shouldered, with muscles that looked like they belonged to a Greek statue. His dark hair was always perfectly styled, and his face, well, let's just say the women in the gym seemed to find plenty of excuses to be near him. That morning, he showed up early. I noticed him out of the corner of my eye while I was on the treadmill. He walked with an easy confidence, a subtle swagger that said he knew exactly who he was. I tried to focus on my run, but it was impossible not to watch him as he started his warm-up. He caught me looking, our eyes met briefly in the mirror. His gaze was sharp, assessing, but there was a hint of amusement there too. My face heated up and I looked away, focusing on the digital numbers flashing on the treadmill display. 15 minutes left, just keep running. But I felt his presence, like a physical force. The way he moved, the way his muscles flexed with each controlled motion. It was mesmerizing. I told myself it was admiration. After all, who wouldn't admire someone who'd sculpted their body to perfection? Except, it felt like more than that. After my run, I moved to the weights area. I'd just started a set of bench presses when I heard a deep, smooth voice. Need a spot? I turned my head, and there he was. Standing over me, his eyes meeting mine with a confidence that made my heart pound in my chest. Sure, I managed, my throat suddenly dry. He stepped behind the bench, his hands hovering just under the barbell. I'm Alex, by the way. Ryan, I said, gripping the bar tighter. All right, Ryan, let's get it done. His voice was steady, encouraging. I pushed through the set, feeling his presence steadying me. He counted off reps, his tone calm and firm. By the time I racked the bar, my muscles were shaking, but my mind was in chaos. Good work, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. His touch lingered, just a fraction longer than necessary. I nodded, unable to meet his gaze. Thanks. I needed that. Any time. His smile was slow, deliberate. You've got good form. So do you, I blurted out before I could stop myself. His eyes sparkled and he laughed. I try. I couldn't help but smile back. We started working out together after that. At first it was just practical. He knew his stuff, and I appreciated the push. We spotted each other, shared tips, and gradually fell into an easy rhythm. But the more time we spent together, the more complicated it felt. I noticed the way his eyes lingered on me when he thought I wasn't looking. I noticed the way my pulse sped up when he smiled. I told myself it was just a harmless crush, something fleeting that would pass. But it didn't pass. One Friday morning, after an intense session, we were the last two in the locker room. The air was thick with steam, the sound of water dripping from the showers echoing off the walls. I was toweling off when he spoke. Ryan, he said, his voice low. I turned around, my heart in my throat. He was standing there, just a few feet away, his hair damp, a towel slung around his hips. His eyes were dark, unreadable. Yeah, I managed. He took a step closer. You ever feel like you're holding back? I swallowed hard. What do you mean? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached out and touched my shoulder, his fingers warm and firm. Like there's something you want, he said softly, but you're too afraid to take it. I couldn't breathe. The air between us felt charged, electric. Alex, I whispered, my voice shaking. He stepped closer still until there was barely any space between us. Tell me to stop, he murmured. I couldn't. His hand slid up to cup the back of my neck, and before I knew it, his lips were on mine. The kiss was slow, deliberate, a question and an answer all at once. I felt like I was falling, like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. I kissed him back. For a few breathless moments, nothing else existed. Just the taste of him, the heat of his body against mine, the rush of something wild and forbidden. And then reality crashed in. I pulled away, my chest heaving. "I can't," I whispered. He stepped back, his eyes searching mine. "I'm sorry," he said. "I shouldn't have—" "No," I interrupted. "It's not you, it's—" He nodded. "Julia." I ran a hand through my hair. "Yeah." We stood there in silence, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on us. "Ryan," he said quietly, "I don't regret it." I met his gaze, my heart aching. Neither do I. I left the gym that day, feeling like my world had been turned upside down. I loved Julia. I'd built my life with her. But now there was a crack in that foundation. A question I couldn't answer. I avoided the gym for a week. I couldn't face him, or myself. But one morning, as I was drinking coffee in the kitchen, Julia walked in. She kissed my cheek and smiled. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, just tired." She squeezed my hand. "Maybe you should hit the gym. You always feel better after a workout." I stared at her for a moment, my chest tight. "Yeah," I said softly. "Maybe I should." When I walked into the gym, Alex was there, lifting weights. He looked up and our eyes met. He smiled, and it felt like a lifeline. "Hey," he said. "Hey." I walked over, my heart pounding. "You back?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm back." He didn't push, didn't ask for more. We just fell into step, the way we always had. But everything was different now, and I didn't know what was coming next.